the home of inspiration every day.
Most people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful.
From news,
countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus.
Views,
there's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence.
Sports,
What's he say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala.
and music to inspire you every day. This is Vuka Online, your inspiration radio station.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of The Cycle right here on Vuka Online Radio with me, your host, Mogale Mothale. Thank you so much for streaming this evening, and thanks to our colleague, or to my colleague, Mkhwanazi for that news bulletin. He will be coming back at 7 p.m. to bring you the latest in the news on The Cycle. This evening, we will be looking into the address by the president last night as we waited for the president to address the nation on the recent allegations made by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. That was last week Sunday, when he called on a media briefing to tell it all, and that's exactly what he did. And the Minister of Police, Senzo Mcunu, was at the center of the allegations that were made by Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. And of course, it also brings people like Mkhwanazi. It also brings people like Nhlanhla, who is said to be at the center of this criminal syndicate that has infiltrated the police service, including even the minister, who is compromised. And of course, as we know now, that minister has been placed on special leave of absence. I'm yet to understand what actually that means, but the minister will be on the leave of absence, and the now minister who will be taking over from the 1st of August is Professor Feroz Kachalia, who will be taking over from Minister Senzo Mcunu as of the 1st of August. So there's also another big announcement that was made by the president. Another commission of inquiry. We know of commissions of inquiry that have, in a way, have not yielded any results. I mean, you can talk about the Amstel inquiry, the inquiry into state capture, as well as the Life Esidimeni inquiry. You can talk about the Marikana inquiry. So all of these inquiries haven't yielded any results, because we haven't seen anyone being held accountable and being sent to jail just to account for the wrongs that have been done. So another commission of inquiry to look into, the infiltration of the criminal, sophisticated criminal syndicate by, the infiltration of the judicial services, the police, by the sophisticated criminal syndicate. So we will see how this will go, as it will be headed by the retired judge, Justice Nhlanhla, who will be heading this inquiry. It will be reporting to the president. It looks like it's going to be, a commission of inquiry that has to really be mindful of time, because it will be giving the first report to the president in 3 months, and then the last report in 6 months. How many millions are we going to be spending on this? We know that on State Capture Commission of Inquiry, we spent billions of rands with the state with that inquiry, and at this point, nothing has happened, because when all these things are happening, we are expecting that with all the revelations that are coming out, heads will roll. The NPA will start with the investigations, and the police will start arresting people, but we haven't seen any of that. But we hope that with this commission of inquiry that has been set up by the president, will, in a way, maybe yield some results. And of course, we'll be joined by our good friend of the show, Tendai Mbaje from the University of Pretoria, later on the show, to talk to us about some of these developments as they were introduced, as they were announced by the president last night. So that's what is coming up on the show. But on the first part of the show, we will be looking into some highlights of the week. As you know that in the last few days there's been a lot that has been happening. Of course, we know that most of our attention was on the president addressing the nation last night, but we know that there was a burial of the former president David Mabuza in Mpumalanga. The president met with a group of the eminent persons at the Union Buildings on Friday to chart the way forward for the national dialogue. And of course, we know that the president spoke last night, and of course, we have touched on that. And Tendai Mbachi will be helping us to unpack and just to get to understand what does this mean for the judiciary, what does this mean for the police, and what does this mean for the president himself with the new minister now in charge of the Ministry of Police in the name of Professor Feroz Kacharia. So we are going to be looking into this evening with Tendai Mbachi right after the break. But before we go to a break, let me remind you how to get in touch with us right here on Vuka Online Radio. We are on Vuka Online Radio on all our social media platforms at Vuka Online Radio on Facebook, on X, as well as on Instagram. So please do make sure that you participate in the discussion tonight. We are back with the cycle right after this short break. Stay tuned.
How do you know the life of personal coach you're about to work with is who they say they are? How do you know if they can do the job? At the Africa Board for Coaching, Consulting and Coaching Psychology, we can tell you. So, before you share your secrets and spend your money, check with us first. Visit www.abccccp.com or call us on 012-751-7608. The ABCCP, the professional body for coaches.
Welcome back to the cycle this evening with me, your host, Mogale Mothale. Thanks again to all of you who are streaming this evening, who have decided to be with us this evening, who have decided to stream and listen to the cycle this evening. Before we go anywhere, let's start here. Well, that was the sound of our national anthem in Gqeberha over the weekend on Saturday when the Springbok trashed Italy 45-0. That was special. That was very special. Whether you are a rugby fan or not, I'm sure there was no way you can ignore that sound. A packed 44,000 stadium in Gqeberha. And of course, this is some or one of the things that we really need to be to appreciate as South Africans, that we are united in our diversity, as our national anthem says. But I'm not going to go into details with that. I'm sure my colleague Mohanguna he has already given you some bits of that earlier today on the show. at 3 p.m. and when he was giving you the Daily Sports Hour right here on Vuka Online Radio. For now, let's go straight into our highlights of the week. We are starting with, of course, we know that on Saturday there was no. Let's start on Friday, because let's start on Friday. On Friday, the president, on his return from Brazil, attending the BRICS summit in Brazil, he came back home to a whole lot of problems. Of course, there was this Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi issue that implicated the minister, and has said that, you know what, we will address that. We will address the nation on Sunday. For now, let's start with the National Eye Dialogue. And of course, he met with the group of eminent persons at the Union Buildings on Friday. Let's now look into what the president actually said to this group of eminent persons who gathered at the Union Buildings on Friday morning. You know, technology has a way of just disappointing you when you heavily relies on it. So,
also speaking now to the eminent persons group for the National Dialogue. Let's listen in.
Back our country's progress. Our economy has not been growing, and the numbers of unemployed people has been rising. In many areas, we have seen a deterioration in governance, a decline in the delivery of services, and widespread corruption and a wastage of public resources. At the same time, we have seen an increasing disengagement by many people from the democratic process, as witnessed by the turnout of people who did not vote in the May 2024 elections. The National Dialogue, therefore, is an opportunity to mobilize South Africans to address these challenges and restore our country to the path of transformation, of development and progress. It should be seen as an opportunity to build on the achievements of the last 3 decades by defining a shared vision and a common program to take our country forward. The National Dialogue draws on a rich tradition of discussion, debate, and united action. In fact, we can safely and confidently say that dialoguing is not a new phenomenon to South Africans. We've held a number of dialogues, and many of those, if not all, have been truly positive or have yielded positive results. The latest one we held was when we drafted our constitution. We had a national dialogue which involved hundreds of thousands of our people and had to deal with millions of documents and suggestions that were proposed and submitted. That in itself ended up with a very good product, a compact, which constitutes our constitution today. At critical moments in our we have come together as a people to confront our difficulties and find solutions to our problems. From the Freedom Charter to the drafting of our constitution, as I said, from the National Peace Accord to our response to the devastating COVID pandemic, South Africans have always pursued dialogue, cooperation, and partnership. What is our strength? Is our diversity. We are a diverse people with different cultures, languages, political traditions, and viewpoints. While this diversity makes for robust and often noisy.
Well, that was the president speaking to the group of eminent persons at the Union buildings on Friday. Let's take a listen to Lindwe Mazibuko, who is also one of the group of one of the members of this group, the eminent person speaking after the meeting.
I think the reason the national dialogue is important now in this moment, I think the most urgent and pressing question is what it means to be a South African citizen. Do we participate in the democratic process? Are we heard by government when we have complaints about service delivery, about the state of our communities, about the safety of our families? It's 30 years into democracy, and we finally have an opportunity to look back on what has been achieved, what has not been achieved, and to plot a way forward for the next 30 years. So I think it's opportune for a lot of reasons. The reason that's close to my heart is this last election's 39% participation rate by eligible voters. Of the people who are old enough to vote, only 39% voted. And to me, that is a crisis. It demonstrates a lack of faith in the system, a lack of faith in democratic processes, and possibly a belief by our citizens that voting doesn't result in change. And that's an existential threat to any democracy, especially in the current climate that we see all over the world, where autocracy and authoritarians are coming to the fore. So I think the foundation of good governance is citizen participation, alongside ethical leaders and so forth. But citizens have to be the driving force behind it, and the moment they drop out of that process, it loses its legitimacy and the democracy becomes threatened. Why is it important to have an inclusive process? A process that doesn't include everyone is necessarily not legitimate. That isn't to say people can't voice their disinterest or their disagreement by simply saying, I'm not going to participate. The key is to make sure opportunity is available to everyone, that nobody is actively left out, that no blind spots result in whole communities not being asked to participate. Everybody should have the opportunity, should they wish to do so, to participate in this dialogue. It's one of the ways we're going to get to the heart of the challenges that we face. And from my perspective, it's one of the ways we're going to get to the heart of the challenge of why people are not participating in the democratic process in the numbers that they should be. I think the reason...
Well, that was Lindwe Mazibuko, former leader of the Democratic Alliance, speaking to the media after that meeting with the president. Let's now move to, of course, the burial of the former president, deputy president, David Mabuza in Mpumalanga. Of course, we have seen a number of people attending that funeral. After that, a funeral, of course, there was a burial, a funeral service which was held at a school in Bombela. And of course, after that, there was that private burial which was only open to family, friends, and some of the members of the African National Congress who were very close to the deputy president, which was held at his farm in Barberton. So let's leave it there for what happened on Saturday. Let's come to what happened last night, the night that all of us have been waiting for. But it did not just start last night. Actually, it started a week ago when Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi made those allegations against Senzo Mcunu. Those were very damaging allegations against Senzo Mcunu. I mean, yes, Senzo Mcunu as the Minister of Police, because obviously as the Minister of Police, you are entrusted with this institution, and if you are found to actually be involved with criminal syndicates that have infiltrated the police service, then that compromises you and your leadership as the minister. And I think the president was left with no choice but to actually axe him. There was no other way the president can venture into, because if he did that, that could have actually damaged the reputation of this presidency, who actually came into this position with the card of saying that, you know what, we are going to not tolerate any corrupt leaders in the government. We are going to root out corruption. But when these kind of allegations are leveled against one of your ministers, you do nothing. And I think the president did the right thing by placing the minister on special leave of absence, so that he cannot actually, get involved or actually intimidate some of the witnesses who might want to come forward in that commission of inquiry. So it was a good thing to remove him from his position and put somebody else. So let's move to what actually MK, the official opposition. Sometimes, honestly speaking, I think we forget that MK actually is the official opposition in parliament. Let's take a listen to what Deputy President of MK, John Hlophe, had to say with regard to the allegations leveled against Senzo Mcunu. There we go again with technology. Let's take a listen to MK, Deputy President John Hlophe. Well, it looks like we won't be able to get that clip. Let's move now to what Fikile Mbalula had to say with regard to these allegations. I hope it works, this one.
In the midst, guided by the revolutionary spirit that
I think
we at least
the country
to believe that Maibu is going
I think we are having a challenge there because we are now getting into some of the clips that we did not actually plan to have, with talks to the MyBeer consultations, which took place also over the weekend, with Floyd Shivambu saying that South Africans are tired of political parties, and yet he wants to start a political party, or he's in consultation to hear what the people are saying, whether they want another political party or not. But he's saying that people are tired of political parties. But this is where we are going to leave it for the highlights of the week. Unfortunately, we were not able to get those views from MK and also from the ANC. But of course, the ANC have been saying that that is the matter for the president to deal with. But they will also want to see Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi coming up with evidence, a concrete evidence to say, to back up his allegations that he has made against the minister. But of course, now there's a platform. The commission of inquiry has been set up. That's where all this, evidence will be put on the table, and then, of course, the commission of inquiry will then make recommendations to the president, and the president will then act on those recommendations. This is where we are going to leave it for the highlights of the week. Right after this break, we will be joined by Tendai Mbaje to talk to us about some of the announcements that were made by the president last night, and he will also just give us his views with regard to this commission of inquiry that was established by the president last night, and of course also the new Minister of Police, Prof. Kachalia. We are going to be back with Tendai Mbaje right after this short break. Stay tuned.
The Africa Center for Work-Based Learning is a professional development center for professionals who aim to improve their professional standing. This means that the learning programs we run are more than just academic programs. They are work-based programs that focus on leveraging your current experience as a professional to build your overall profile. A year down the line, the Africa Center for Work-Based Learning is developing into a preferred center for professional development in Pretoria, with 8 professional development faculties including accounting, teaching, entrepreneurship, as well as IT and many more. For more information, go to acwbl.org or dial +27 12 751 7608. The Africa Center for Work-Based Learning, where work is learning.
Welcome back to The Cycle this evening with me, your host, Mogale Mothale. At this point, we are supposed to be having our guest, Tendai Mbaje, from the University of Pretoria this evening. But unfortunately, due to technical glitches that we are having tonight, we are not able to get to Tendai. So we are just going to continue. But before we go any further, I think my thoughts on what the president said last night. I think for me, the only logical thing to do for the president at this point was to bring or to come up with the commission of inquiry into these allegations that have been made by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. And I'll tell you why I think that was the only logical thing to do, because you want to establish the facts. And when you want to establish the facts, you must actually consider a variety of things. And one of those is to say, do I just fire this person and do what next? Do I fire this person and just let it go, or do I want to uncover and actually uproot the corruption that is said to be happening in the police force? So establishing a commission of inquiry in order to come up with the facts, so that when you deal with this issue, you're not only dealing with it on the surface, but you are actually uprooting it, because a commission of inquiry is, if you look at the scope that the president spoke to last night, the president said that that commission of inquiry is going to look into the infiltration of the judicial services. Remember, General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi also spoke of some in the NPA, some prosecutors, and also some judges who are involved with these cartels. He also spoke about at length about the involvement of the police, whether be the PD commissioner, be the lieutenant general from different units in the police force who are involved. So when you are dealing with such a sophisticated syndicate that Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi actually took us through, you then have to really make sure that you put together a mechanism that is going to help you uncover and come up with the facts, so that when you pursue people with criminal charges, you have a proper evidence which will be able to help you get a successful prosecution. Because with this, we don't want to see what we have seen with some of the cases that came out of the State Capture Commission, where it looks like the NPA is unprepared, because that is embarrassing on the NPA side, because you can't be taking this matter to court and you look like you are not actually prepared, because when you take that matter to court, you must be sure of your docket. Your docket must be having everything that you need in order to proceed with the case in court. So it looks like the president did something that I thought it's a rational thing to do, it's a logical thing to do, in making sure that you put together a commission of inquiry so that we are able to establish the facts. But of course, other political parties welcome this, like the IFP. They released a statement last night saying that they actually support what the president actually have done with regard to establishing a commission of inquiry. Maybe if one can just go to their statement, look at what they are saying in the opening. The IFP notes with support the announcement by the president to appoint an independent commission of inquiry into the serious and wide-ranging allegations made by the KZN Provincial Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi against the Police Minister Senzo Mcunu. The IFP commends the president for acting on our proposal made on the 6th of July. This is where the party has actually made a proposal to the president to say, what of the things that you need to do is to establish a commission of inquiry so that you are able to uncover what Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi spoke of. So that's what the statement says. But if you look at the statement by the EFF, you see that the EFF actually, they are not really pleased with the president in his efforts to really deal with this by placing the minister on special leave, because it's something that I also need to understand. What does this mean? What does this mean? Does it mean that he is still a member of parliament because he's the member of parliament. We just don't know. It was not clear. Maybe in the coming days, we will know if he is still the member of parliament. We will know whether in the coming days he will still be entitled to all these benefits that comes with being a minister, because he is not fired from his position. Remember that. He is not fired. He is merely suspended. He is actually on leave of absence. So it's something that we need to really understand. What does it mean? Does it mean that he can come back, even though it's another thing that I don't think he'll come back, considering some of the allegations that have been made against him. Even if the Commission of Inquiry clears him of any wrongdoing, I don't think he will come back, because his image and his character has already been tainted. So I don't see him coming back. And another thing that I think we also need to think about is the president going into this. The president going into this this address last night. I think he was confronted with one of the most difficult questions, to say that, do I, save the nation or save the political ally? Remember, the ANC is going into the Congress in 2027. Yes, the president is not seeking re-election. This is his last term. So one may say that he doesn't really need political allies as such, but he does need political allies to protect him. Remember, there is Palapala that the president will still have to manage. So if you don't actually have political allies on your corner or in your corner, you will actually, politically be irrelevant in the coming future through some of the allegations that the president he himself is faced with. So it is very important to manage it in a way that, from a political point of view, to manage it in a way that it also works for you. But of course, you are caught up between a situation where you need to make a bold decision. You need to show that you are in charge as the president, and fire those who are found to be wanting. So you have to be careful whether you are really saving the nation or save the political ally. And I'm not sure if, but I think that the president, in a way, saved the nation, because if the president was not going to fire, or did not fire, but suspend or placed him on special leave. But the point that I'm trying to make is that he is no longer the Minister of Police. So if he was going to say, no, we are going to, proceed with investigation, but the minister is still there, I mean, that will actually be a disappointment. The public will be disappointed with that decision. So, placing him, I'm even finding it difficult, placing him on special leave, suspending, whatever it is. I think it's something that it's in line with the law, especially if you are not sure if someone indeed have broken the law, because you need to establish the facts. You can't act on rumors. You can't act on allegations, because yes, allegation does bring this bad cloud, hanging over that minister, but you can't, just fire them like that, because you need to establish the facts. If it does actually, the argument that the EFF is making to say that the president should have been bold enough to fire the minister. Let's take a listen to Mmusi Maimane, the BOSA leader, reacting to what the president actually said last night. Let's take a listen to BOSA leader Mmusi Maimane.
About impugning, I thought it was fairly limited action to a very complicated and a big issue. First and foremost, I think the president should have been very deliberate at firing Minister Mkhwanazi. This is not about impugning guilt. It's about simply saying South Africans are not going to pay for an acting police commissioner and one on special suspension. We've seen this culture all the way through our government. It would have been an ideal situation to simply say, Minister, go back to being a member of parliament and let the investigation continue, so that ultimately the police leadership feel a sense upon which they cannot have a delay while an investigation is taking place or commission of inquiry, 6 months in a country where 64 people are being murdered every single day is, to me, in my view, a sense upon which you can continue this lethargy that sometimes can sit within police in the face of such serious issues of crime. So that's on the first instance. The second is I welcome Professor Kachalia. I think he will have his hands full. I would have preferred that a permanent minister be put into the table so he can offer strong leadership, remembering that we've got a police commissioner, Fanima Samola, who has had some of his own challenges, and therefore strong leadership is required here, and Mr. Kachalia has a tough job before him. And then ultimately, I think the other inquiries that must take place, my deep concern is that there didn't seem to be a strong linkage between criminal prosecution relative to what a commission of inquiry can do. Now, the reason why Zondo Commission got delayed and took so much longer is because post the reporting, then could the criminal prosecution begin. And that's why today there's still many who are still out and still living lives that are free despite the serious allegations that were brought against them in Zondo.
Well, yes, that was Musi Maimane speaking after the announcement by the president with regard to what the president has actually announced last night. Let's just now take a listen to Yusuf Abramji, who is a anti-crime analyst, talking about some of what the president said last night.
Are running amok. You don't feel safe, I don't feel safe, we can't walk the streets. The president said it this evening, South Africans are concerned about corruption, kidnappings, gender-based violence, and so on. Point number one. Point number two, we all called for the commission of inquiry the past few days. We called for the suspension of the minister. Yes, many called for the minister to be fired. I think the president fell short on a number of fronts. Point number one, 6 months for this commission is far too long. We are not talking here of hundreds of witnesses. We're talking here probably of only a handful. The provincial commissioner, when he made these allegations last week, said if got the evidence, I would have given this particular commission a maximum time of 6 weeks to round it off. There's no time to go and waste because we have a crisis. There's no urgency. Point number one. Yes, it's good to see a retired judge and 2 senior counsels, advocates being part of this commission of inquiry. Many South Africans were expecting that the president will say something about the suspension or otherwise of General Mkhwanazi, but let's not forget, the president does not have the powers to suspend General Mkhwanazi. I think where he fell really short, and the point made by Ian Cameron, the chairman of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee, where he said that the president gave the right to the commission to suspend officials. How does the commission in 6 months' time go and then look at the allegations, suspend them? If I was the minister or the commissioner of police, General Fanima Samola, I'll act this evening and suspend all those implicated police officials, including his own deputy national police commissioner, who's at the forefront of these allegations, General Shedrick Sibia. He should be suspended. And I think, yes, the president should have gone one step further. I see no way of Senzo Mcunu coming back as Minister of Police, even if he's found not guilty or even if he's cleared. His name has been tainted. And I think the president fell short. And I think many South Africans were even expecting a mini cabinet reshuffle tonight. I think many South Africans are disappointed because we know other cabinet ministers involved in wrongdoing are just ignored. Because there's an outcry here, the president is acting, which is good, but I don't think he went far enough.
Yes, that was Yusuf Abramji, crime analyst, talking about some of the points that I've already made mention of. But I think it's also important. 6 months is quite a long time, even though they will be reporting to the president, the first 3 months, and of course the final report should be handed over to the president in 6 months. So we will see how this unfolds. Unfortunately, we are not able to be joined by Tendai Mbaje, who have actually helped us a lot to understand this from a political point of view. I spoke about the fact that the president still needs allies, even though one will say that this is his last term, so he doesn't necessarily need political allies because he's not running for the ANC's office, but he still needs people who will protect him should Nhlanhla come back to parliament. He will still need people who will support him after the new president of the ANC is elected in 2027, so that he's able to finish his term, because it has been a culture in the ANC. Once you have lost at conference, you will be removed as a president. So the president will still want to complete and finish his term. So that's where you need political allies, those who will protect you. And Senzo Mcunu was that political ally of President Cyril Ramaphosa. And maybe that's why others feel that he was lenient on him. He could have been hard on him, fire him altogether from the ministry, and also the ANC also replacing him, because that's the powers of the ANC, to replace him from parliament, to say you must resign from parliament and we'll send someone in your space. Of course, this is something that the ANC obviously will still be looking into. We are waiting to hear maybe in the coming days what the ANC will do if the ANC decides that they want to get him, to replace him in parliament. But I don't see that happening, even though that is not likely to happen. I'm just asking myself, wondering how is he going to actually do his job in parliament with all this cloud hanging over him. But this is where we are going to leave it for the cycle this evening. Up next is my colleague Mogale with some news bulletin right after this very good sounds. Enjoy. Good evening, and until we meet again next week, Monday, it's a good evening from me, and God bless you.
The home of inspiration every day.
Most people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful.
From news,
Countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus.
Views.
There's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence.
Sports.
What's he say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala.
And music to inspire you every day. This is Vuka Online, your inspiration radio station.